What's up, guys, and welcome back to Jimmy Talks. If you're new here from the algorithm, I'm glad to have you here. I really am, and I hope you stick around. If you're already a subscriber, it's great to be able to talk to you again. I'm going to do another kind of commentary style video with minimal editing because it seemed like my last one was received pretty well, the survival tips video. So, anyways, let's talk about the dumb shit you shouldn't be doing if you're in your 20s. I should clarify here before I begin, this advice is applicable to like mid and late 20s as well, but a lot of this will be more so geared to early 20s, like people fresh out of high school or college age. So, all right, let's get into it. There is nothing wrong at all with living with your parents as long as you've got a plan. The caveat here is as long as you've got a plan and you're not like being a leech or a mooch, you know what I mean? So, that can be in many different ways. If your parents only expect you to help them around the house and you do, then like great, you know. But your parents ask for like $100 every like 2 or 3 weeks or something. Like just give it to them every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's only $100. So just don't be a leech. All right. So we all know about the housing crisis and how rent prices are also pretty absurd, and houses are incredibly expensive. And I think people should revert back to traditionalist roots and stay with their parents a bit longer. This is what people used to do back in the day, and I think it's really helpful and good to be close with family like this. They'd save up their money while living at home and helping their parents, and they'd move out when they got married. I still think it's a good idea, and a lot of different cultures still do this. Moving out at 18 seems to be kind of like a Western thing. Not that everything the West does is bad, by the way. I'm not one of those people. But this is one of the things I actually don't like about the West. This boomer trope mentality is to like move out and get a job right away as soon as you turn 18. And while this advice probably worked pretty well back in their day, like the 60s and 70s, when rent and housing was much, much cheaper and jobs arguably paid more and wages weren't stagnant yet, you could pay off a semester of college working part time at McDonald's or any other summer job, and the dollar had more purchasing power. That doesn't happen anymore. So this advice isn't as sound nowadays in modern America, and probably other Western countries as well. I don't know about Europe, but I do know about, besides the US, Canada also has a terrible housing market. So I think people should stick with their parents a little longer if they're able to. If I was able to change this, I would have done it, and I'd have been ahead much further along financially speaking. If I was able to pay minimal amount of bills while staying with my parents, I can say with confidence if I lived with my parents from 18 to 25, I'd have saved up an extra 100 grand just from like paying bills and rent and all this other crap alone because I didn't really buy anything anyways. So instead, this was spent on like car payments, rent, utilities, bills, groceries, uh, random thing in my house breaks, whatever. So I know I was renting, so I could have called the landlord to fix it, but I never really liked calling the maintenance man. But now I got a big arsenal of tools, so you know, win. I think it's a win. I'll take it. So anyways, we'll talk about spending money on stupid shit later in the video and needless spending. But, anyways, of course, this doesn't mean be lazy and live with mommy forever, like I said earlier, nor does it mean to be a total mooch and never help your parents out. You should be expected to do chores for your parents. Do the pain in the ass chores like cleaning the gutters or like deep cleaning the bathroom or something like help them remodel the basement. Help them out, anyways. If you're living with your parents and you're in your 20s, they're probably just getting older, right? And it's a respectful and honorable thing to do, in my opinion. I think it's very respectable to help out family members. Caveat here: not everyone can do this. The living at home thing, I mean. Some people just have mean parents, and it's super sad and unfortunate that some people have to go through this. Here's some Jimmy Talks lore, and I really hate talking about myself, so I'll make it short. But I am one of those kids with the messed up parents. I'm not a kid anymore, obviously, but I was one of those kids. My mom kicked me out the second I turned 18. I had no family at all, barely any friends in the area we lived in. And that was because we moved around a lot. So Jimmy Talks had nothing but $1,000, his phone and a charger, and the clothes on his back. And he had to take a bus across the country to where the rest of his family members lived. So Jimmy Talks then had to sleep at his friends' houses if he could swing it while working. Uh, and then after that, Jimmy Talks was able to live with his father for about a year afterwards, but his dad drained him of all of his savings because Jimmy Talks' dad didn't want to work a job. So yeah, I had to pay for a grown man and the rent and utilities and all the blah, 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 blah. And I was only like 20 years old, 21. So the way I was able to get out of that crappy situation was to work two jobs, and it sucked. I had no car, so I had to walk to work in the sun, rain, or the snow. One job was at Tim Hortons from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., and my other job was Burger King from 5 in the afternoon to closing. So like 11 p.m. So I was pretty much working from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. I did that for a solid 3 months straight before I went back to having just one job because it was way too much. But that's enough about me. And actually, this brings me on to my second point, where if you're in a bad spot and can't live with your parents, then this one is what you need to hear next. If you must move out, you should get roommates. So you're probably going to need roommates if you can't live with your parents to save up cash for one reason or another. Some people just don't have that ability, So, and that's okay. But living with roommates, which does have some cons, does allow you to be in a much better financial position than having to pay for everything solely by yourself. And if you have roommates, learn to become diplomatic because I'm telling you, it's not a matter of if your roommates piss you off, it's a matter of when. I'm not going to lie. I'd recommend establishing ground rules right away and making schedule for chores that each of you do with a sign off sheet to mark that you completed it. Try to put your ego aside as well. You know, it sounds a bit over the top, but it's really not. It's really not, in my opinion. By doing this, you're going to come to an agreement and have established boundaries and ground rules, so it doesn't seem like one person is doing more than the other. But yeah, by having a roommate, you'll be able to save money up at a faster rate by splitting the bills versus living on your own completely. It is what it is for Gen Z. Regular people can't afford rent and mortgages because it's all too expensive. Of course, there is always outliers to this, and I know this, but we're going with the normal stuff people deal with commonly. So, not the outliers. Um, okay, so that brings me on to my next point. You're living with parents or you have a roommate. Now what? You should be working, going to school, or both. I don't really care what you decide to do. Is everyone is different and everybody has something that they want to do with their lives, but you should be at the bare minimum working a job. Uh, you're going to have to anyways if you have a roommate and not enough money saved up beforehand as a kid to live off of while you go to school. But you may be able to swing not having a job if you live at home and just go to school. But regardless, I think you should have a job. Cash flow, which means how much money you're bringing in, is super important no matter what. It's the most important factor in financial freedom. You need more money coming in. You can get rid of debt and all that, but if you're making I don't know. Let's say you're making $20 an hour and you get a new job paying $60 an hour. That's going to make everything easy. Obviously, it's pretty simple. There's not much more to say than that. You can't pay for stuff if you don't have a job. Whatever you're doing, do something that benefits you for the future. Um, if you're working but you can't go to college yet for one reason or other, try to learn anyways. Financial shit, learning a language, any skill, learn how to code. I don't know. Literally do whatever interests you. Just learn something. Get a skill. Get skills. That's really what matters. Do something that benefits you for the future. I think you should be working, even if it's part time at the bare minimum. This leads me on to my next point. Stay out of bad debt as much as humanly possible. Any debt, if it can be avoided. So, as I mentioned earlier, some of you will probably be thinking about college or any sort of like vocational school. This is typically a pathway to earning more money in the future, so I support going to school and educating yourself if it is in something worthwhile, not like a big like a communications degree or something stupid like that. Sorry guys who got that, but there's much better degrees to pick from. I'm just gonna keep it honest with you. I don't want that to seem like a personal attack, but I'm a big advocate for STEM degrees, most medical degrees, and various other ones like being a lawyer. So I know that's super different. That's a lot of school, but don't go to college for something ridiculous and end up with the same job you have as before. But now you're on all of that student loan debt, like art history, you know? Come on. Also, you need to see how expensive your college is going to cost. I'm also a big advocate for people going to community college. It don't make no difference in getting a job. For example, if someone goes to a big state school and gets their associates in nursing, or for example, and someone goes to community college for nursing and also gets their associates, they're both going to get the same job as a nurse regardless, probably get around the same exact pay, but one has $20,000 of more of debt and one person has $20,000 less of debt. than the other one. Which one do you think that is? The community college person. So, and also, college isn't even the only option. This was pushed heavily onto you, like college, back in like the 50s and 60s when it was seen as higher status to get an education because most people didn't go to college. Now that trope has still continued onwards, and everybody thinks, oh, you can only go to college. That's not true at all. There is plenty of people who process information differently. I know of multiple people who can barely operate a computer beyond clicking Google Chrome, typing, pressing the back arrow, and delete. And these are like Gen Z people, right? But they sure as hell can diagnose that knocking sound in your car, take apart your engine, put it back together with minimal to no instruction, and they'll also change your brakes, and they'll do it in like 2 hours. But if you're one of these people, just get into a trade or instead of college. These people are super valuable to society as well. I really hate the common trope that tradies are stupid and uneducated because it's not true at all. I don't think the plumber who is designing your whole entire plumbing system underneath your house is stupid. Neither is the electrician who is tasked with wiring a new build grocery store and is setting up a massive operation for a big ass building. If you're looking at trades, find what you like, but just take pay into consideration. Off the top of my head, elevator mechanics, aviation mechanics, electricians, and plumbers all make decent money. So, okay, on to the next point, which is going to be a different turn. Do not be spending too much time on women. Okay, so I'm not going to be one of those guys who tells you to avoid women and all that stuff, which there seems to be a lot of nowadays. Avoiding women because of XYZ reasons. Okay, yeah. I'll just say this avoiding women is gay. Okay, touch grass and go hang out with girls. But don't spend an excessive amount of time chasing girls. I'm going to say this women, especially early 20s women, prefer men overall that are older than them. Heck, even the 18, 19-year-olds do. You've got like college kids, or not college, you got high school kids that are like 15 years old competing with a 25-year-old. It's kind of creepy, but and you ever meet that one girl in high school that's 16 but has a boyfriend that's like 30? You know, not that I'm advocating for that, obviously, but the point I'm making here is that women do prefer older men when they're around this age. That's because an older man is more established and usually has more money, more time in the gym, better job. So he might be stronger, has more experience and more game, stuff like that. You're competing against those dudes as well as, this will sound funny, as well as rappers, trappers, athletes, blue check marks on Instagram, and, millionaires with Instagram clout. And half the time, young dudes can't even tell when a girl is showing street tendencies anyways. So read the book The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. Girls want a finished project, not a project to be invested in. This is like the trend of dudes finding a torta and then making her lose weight, and she comes out fine as hell afterwards, and they call it akin to buying Bitcoin in 2009. Nah, though. For real, guys. Basically, what I'm saying here is that you should be training up for that. Again, though, this doesn't mean avoid all women, because like we said earlier, that's pretty gay and stupid. But I do think your 20s are extremely valuable because you have time in the market for investing your money, time in the market for investing into yourself to learn skills, time in the market just being in the workforce making money, time in the market getting college knocked out of the way. Whatever it is, I think these are much more valuable uses of your time while you're young and don't really have any other obligations to fulfill. Trust me, if you don't use the time now to better yourself, you'll be paying for it in the future. You ever see the memes of some guy at work ranting about his wife and 6 kids while meanwhile the young guy at the job is blowing his money on his $50,000 truck and alcohol? Don't be that young guy, because you'll turn into that old guy. So, okay, that leads me on to my next and final point of the video. For the love of God, do not spend every single dollar you have on dumb shit. People get paid and then they want to go spend their money, and then they'll be like, oh, I don't have enough to invest. You should be paying yourself for the future and then buying the stupid crap you want to buy. If you're making $20 an hour, there's no reason that you should be driving a car that costs $35,000. Bare minimum. Try your damnness to buy a car outright. Check out my video on cars under 10K for the money minded. You don't have to buy a Toyota and pay the Toyota tax. There are some really good cars and trucks out there that are super reliable and not that expensive, with plentiful parts, and are easy to work on and are nice to drive. And no, I'm not saying a Honda Civic is the only other thing you have to buy. And, I have a Toyota too, but I paid the Toyota tax. That's why I'm saying this. I paid a little bit extra money. These good cars, though, are Lincoln Town cars, bulletproof engines, good transmissions. I will say with their suspension, they have an air suspension system, so these things when they break, they are kind of pricey. But other than that, these things are pretty bulletproof. They're driving around all the time. I see them all the time. Ford Rangers, these little small trucks, man. Small trucks need to make a comeback for real, for real. I don't need a massive one. I just want a little truck, man. Who cares? But anyways, Buick LeSabres, Mercury Grand Marquis, these Panther platform cars are super reliable, and it's like you're driving on a couch. It's so comfortable. As well as even some Lexuses can be found for a decent price. No reason to make yourself a slave to a car payment. If you must get a car and can't buy one outright, that's okay. Budget for what you need, but I wouldn't spend more than 10 to 15K. And avoid high interest loans at car places like buy here, pay here places. Those places are absolutely predatory and give you the highest legal limit APR that they can give you. So you end up paying like 10K over the price tag, even if the price tag seems reasonable. That $10,000 car that's 15 years old turns into 20K, and a 15-year-old car for 20 grand is just not reasonable. So also, you don't need to go out every weekend. I know the urge of FOMO or fear of missing out will take place, but okay, let me tell you what hitting the bars does. You spend $100 just to gawk at some girls and get slightly drunk. You probably won't make a move. Instead of just buying a 30 rack for $25 and chilling outside with the boys, smoking cigars, or even playing video games, and just shooting the shit. The second option is much more fiscally responsible and arguably more fun than being in a crowded and sticky bar. I don't know. Also, I'm a big dude in real life, and it seems like every time I've gone to a bar, some guy just wants to fight me for no reason at all. Maybe Jimmy Talks is just a guy that has an annoying voice and he should stop making YouTube videos so people want to punch him in the face. I don't know, but just saying. But yeah, guys, bleeding your money dry for temporary pleasure is so stupid. This doesn't mean be a no-lifer and don't enjoy yourself. No, not at all, actually. There's just plenty of ways to spend time with the homies and not also blow half a paycheck in 3 hours. That's stupid and irresponsible, and it's only going to set you back. I've seen these street talk videos of like, how much money's in your bank account? People say like $100. It's like, what? How do you only have $100? There's plenty of free or low cost ways to hang out with your friends. And I'm just not a big advocate of hitting the bars every single weekend. I never really was a fan of that. I'm probably just projecting a little bit here, but there is a lot of truth there. So, okay, guys, those are some quick hip pocket lessons from me. I thought I'd go back to my older style videos of giving advice for this video. So, yeah, there you have it. Dumb shit you shouldn't be doing in your 20s and smart shit you should be doing in your 20s. If you want more stuff like this, let me know in the comments below and I'll look into it further. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments because I actually do read them and I want to give you all some content that you all want to watch. The viewers will tell me what they want to watch, and I listen to the viewers because they literally give you the answer key. They give you the formula. That's the big thing with YouTube. Make a YouTube channel, guys. If you're thinking about it, just do it. Without my viewers and subscribers, I wouldn't even be here on YouTube. So, okay. That's all from me. Jimmy Talks out.